Let's talk supply chain. So, welcome to the show, Alan.
Greetings. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. I am so happy to have you here. I mean, what Envase is doing is really exciting. I mean, you talk about guiding the freight industry into a more sustainable and profitable future, and it's really such a refreshing approach. I mean, everyone knows how passionate I am about collaboration, and when I hear other organizations talking about how we can make this industry future proof and create an environment that empowers growth in which everyone can thrive, I just get really excited. So I can't wait to find out more. So let's dive right in. So let's start at the beginning and touch on why Envase was established. What was the founder, Larry Cuddy, seeing in the market? What were the challenges that he was facing that really led him to want to create his own solution?
Yeah, so Larry and a lot of our execs come from the trucking space. We joke with Larry all the time, and he's going to hate that I say this, but he's the CEO with the CDL, right? I mean, he's been a driver, he's been a leader in large and small organizations, and it all started with the challenges that the drivers face. I mean, we're heavy in drayage, obviously, as you know, but also in over the road space from a TMS perspective, but drivers in this supply chain, all the weight falls on them. They're left to pick up the pieces and deal with the inefficiencies. So Envase really started out of that premise. How do we improve the day-to-day life of the driver and that entire journey that he follows?
I really love that you mentioned that because all of the conversations I've had with Larry, he really does talk about getting his hands dirty
Yeah.
and really experiencing, right? Like getting involved, experiencing what the people that he and your organization are trying to help, what that looks like, what's working, what's not working, what could be better. And so that's really the mantra that he follows, but I think he's also translated that into the organization as well, right?
Oh, no question. I mean, that's our North Star, as we call it. Um, it all starts with that driver, really that owner operator who could work day to day for a motor carrier. He could work on his
Mhm.
own, and it's about making his life easier. Now that led us to acquire some TMS solutions
Mhm.
because to make an impact, you kind of have to have scale, and we now have
Yes.
the four largest drayage TMSs. We're in the over the road space as well, but it's really about how do we put a dent in this little universe, the container supply chain, and we really thought we had to have some scale to be able to do that.
So let's talk about that because Envase is still a young company. I mean, it was founded in 2020, but the growth that you've seen in that time has really been incredible. I mean, we're, almost 3 years later. Like you said, you're the largest drayage TMS provider in North America. So talk us through that. And you also mentioned acquisition. So the role of strategic acquisition strategy has played a part in that growth. So walk us through what that has looked like and what you've done to really scale so quickly.
Yeah, so if you start with the drayage space, Comp Care, Profit Tools, GTG Technology, those are three of the four largest drayage TMS providers. Tailwind is more focused on the over the road, both from a broker perspective and also a carrier perspective, and then InfoSight is another TMS arm. All of these were kind of best in class and were highly competitive with each other, and they've got long-standing thousands of long-standing motor carrier customers, right? And that's pretty sticky. But we thought with the combination of these acquisitions, you could really do a lot more, kind of the 1 and 1 equals 3 scenario.
Hmm.
If you could integrate visibility so that people aren't searching for container status, if you could streamline some of the processes, create a common mobile application that drivers could use, you could really improve the process efficiency, the day-to-day process efficiencies, so that these motor carriers could scale, and the individual drivers who are owner operators could do more business without adding headcount. That's really
Right.
what it comes down to at the end of the day. So
Amazing.
we have all that, but we've also added our own tech and our own software development, hundreds of folks focused on that to kind of augment some of the solutions and expand from there. So it's a little about acquisitions, but it's more about the glue that binds all that together and creating a more efficient supply chain.
Very cool. Now let's get into what that looks like exactly. So, what is it that Envase actually does, and how do you help your customers?
So it starts with the driver and his journey, and all the TMS systems are important, but we've expanded out from there. Um, in addition to making that process more efficient, we've looked at the tasks that these drivers and these motor carriers have to do and the places that they're going, and we've added additional acquisitions. So there's kind of a three-legged stool when it comes to what Envase does now. It's a
Okay.
little different than when we started. There's the TMS companies. There is Secure Space, which is basically like an Airbnb for industrial storage. So if you
Okay.
have a shipper who has to get their container out of a port because they're going to pay a storage fee or demurrage fee on it, Secure Space connects. It's a marketplace to connect buyers with sellers, connect the shippers who need storage space for chassis or containers or even just trucks on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. So
Hmm.
we found that very interesting because the drivers on our TMS systems were going to these depots.
Right.
And they were usually waiting in line, much like they do at the ports, to get in and out. So that led us to, hey, how do we further optimize this flow? And our private equity backers, the Firmament group, went out and purchased the best in class automated gate system solution called Nascent Technology. So the combination of all of these solutions bolted together better optimizes the entire flow because we knew where the trucks were going. We just wanted to figure out how to make that flow more efficiently. And when you know the cargo that's coming and going to a place, you can really optimize that flow and provide that visibility to all of the stakeholders involved in the chain: the shippers, the ports, the people who run the depots, and then the customers. Who's we like to say the power of the payer here. They really
Hmm.
want to know where their cargo is, and this helps provide that visibility.
Amazing. And I'm sure the truckers must, like the truck drivers, must just really like what you're doing and creating efficiencies for them.
That's the ultimate goal. Yeah. When all of this stuff we've proven out, when all this stuff is bolted together and really works efficiently, is connected digitally together. Yes, it's a much easier flow for those folks.
Now, let's just take a moment here because we've been talking a lot of TMS, which is an acronym for Transportation Management System. And I just
Hmm.
want to make sure that anybody who's listening knows what TMS actually means because we're going to be talking a lot about that today. And so, it's tough times at the moment, right? And companies who don't use a cloud based TMS face increasing challenges. I mean, the industry is just testing enough right now without trying to navigate it without the right tools for the job. So talk us
Yeah.
through some of the challenges that you're seeing in that your technology is or technology in general really needs to be top of mind for companies right now.
Yeah, we talked about the solutions for these small, medium, and large size drayage carriers, these trucking companies. But if we go back to that driver with one truck, that owner operator,
Mhm.
um, everybody in that group, from very small to very large, they've got two big challenges. One is visibility, and the other is just
Mm.
process efficiency. So, visibility: where is the cargo that I'm supposed to pick up? When is it going to be available? And what
Mhm.
do I have to do to collect it? There's a lot of barriers to entry, especially in the port space. That these
Mhm.
individual owner operators and the dispatchers, especially, are having to navigate. From our studies, it's 15 to 20 minutes per container that these dispatchers spend doing all of the steps, finding out where their cargo is, making the appointment, scheduling and rescheduling based on what the shipper wants to do, and then advising when all this is going to be executed forward. So that visibility is a key piece of this. And we, again, with all of the TMS solutions we have, we've spent a lot of time and money making a common API that shares the visibility information between all systems so that
Mm.
everybody's singing from the same sheet of music. The other piece, really, on the process efficiency is just trying to automate as many of the functions, the manual functions, like making an appointment at a container terminal that these dispatchers have to do hundreds of times a day for some of your bigger carriers. We just
Yeah.
want to automate that. So we have direct connections in because these drivers are visiting these marine terminals, every day, multiple times a day. We want to
Mhm.
automate those steps so that whether you're an owner operator or a dispatcher, you don't have to do the same tasks every day over and over again. That can just be automated, and you could just manage the exceptions from there.
Yeah, and just think about all the time. Like you just sort of mapped out all the time that they're spending manually doing a lot of these things and going
Yeah,
into that same website maybe, over and over and over and over again. And is that really what we want our team members to be doing? Right? Because there's so much more. Like people in our organizations bring so much value to an organization. Is that really what we want them to do and be spending so much time doing?
yeah,
You
exactly.
know?
Great point. They're amazingly smart folks who are highly adaptive, and unfortunately, they're just forced to do these rote tasks every day, and then sometimes the systems don't work or the website's down. We just want to
Mhm.
we want to keep the smart people focused on this because it's hard to find folks who want to do these jobs. Truck
Oh,
drivers, dispatchers. It's very tough to find good folks, and we want to make this job appealable to, quite honestly, a little younger generation.
yeah. Yeah, well, and the retention piece, right? Is that you
Yeah,
may be able to find them and they come into the job, but then it's such menial work without that technology potentially backing it that they're going to not like it, and then you're not gonna be able to retain them because
yep,
you don't have the right tools in place to keep good people.
yep, exactly. We see that at every level.
Mm,
Especially at some of these depots, like I mentioned Secure Space. They've got about 500 partners around the country that operate that own depots, and Secure Space takes the bookings for them. It's usually it comes down to security guards who are having to work. These people are having to staff these folks 24 hours a day, and
mhm.
it's a tough job. If we can put some technology out there that can help automate the entry and exit of that cargo into
Yeah,
these facilities and make sure that billing is accurate and when they come in and when they come out and that security is 100%. It just helps everybody. So it's
yeah.
just the right tech trying to optimize the processes.
Yeah, so let's do a bit of a deep dive into some of the solutions that you provide, right? So let's start looking at it for intermodal and drayage customers, which you have mentioned on this episode already. And so you're optimizing operations all the way down to even automating invoices. So talk us through exactly what businesses can do with the Envase system and what you've been seeing for some of your clients.
Yeah, so the bulk of the goods that are moved in and out of ports, and the bulk of goods that are moved, at least in North America, they're on the backs of very small owner operators with 1 to 3 trucks, and
Yeah,
we want to focus on them. We have the solutions for the medium to large size groups, but we spent the last year really focusing on them and created a whole new
nice.
TMS solution from the ground up, just called Envase TMS, which we're got in beta with about 60 different groups right
Okay.
now, getting
Mhm.
feedback on it. Uh, these owner operators, it's basically a full business they have to run. So they're in the truck in the morning. Before they get in the truck, they're figuring out what orders to take. Then they get in the truck, and
Mhm.
then they have to navigate in and out of these ports and to depots and distribution centers. And at the end of the day, they have to come home, and then they have to do the bookkeeping to pay either friends that are driving for them or invoice the customers. And we want to put all those solutions in one and make it as automated as possible and as user friendly as possible.
Mhm.
um, Included in there, we're wanting to help solve the two biggest problems, the visibility and also the process efficiency, so that
Yeah.
they're not checking in for information over and over again. That expands out this ecosystem. And because we have connections with all these ports and with a lot of the distribution center customers, we can automate their entry and exit in and out of these facilities just to make that journey a little more efficient.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you're focusing on the small guys because they're usually the ones that, they want to get technology in place, but a lot of times these solutions really cost too much money and they just can't do it.
Yep.
And those are the ones that we need to keep engaged and we need to retain. I mean, at the end of the day, and I've reported this on a number of different live shows, is how many drivers and that we need to be able to sustain the trucking industry just in the US over the next, year and a half, etc. And I think if we can all work together to make it easier so that we do retain those drivers instead of trying to look for just new drivers to enter the industry, everybody's going to win. And so that's one of the reasons why your mantra around collaboration, not only because that's something that I say a lot, but I think really is going to drive the industry forward.
Yeah. Right now, we're connected to 35,000 drivers.
Nice.
And again, most of those, I would say, and this probably, trickles down, at least in North America, most of these are 1 to 2 truck owner operators. Sure, they may work for a motor carrier today, but they may work for themselves tomorrow. But
Yeah,
they don't
who
have the
knows?
time to learn new tech. It just has to
Yeah,
work.
yeah,
It needs to be, we love the Apple ecosystem analogy here. It just has to be simple. There's no one to train you
right.
on it. There's no need. If you need context, you can go get it.
Yeah,
That's very different from how a very large trucking company runs, who want, some of these guys
yeah,
want customized solutions. They want customized workflows. We can do that. We have solutions for that. But we want to make sure that the lowest common denominator in this, or really we think the foundation of this entire pyramid really is based on
hmm,
that individual truck driver. I think it's 70% of the power of goods being moved comes from these 1 to 2 truck owner operators, and that's really where we're focusing. Because if we make their lives and that journey better, everybody benefits. The stakeholders, the shippers
yeah,
know where their cargo is, the ports know what's coming at them, and we can deal with that more efficiently. Railroads, same way. Everybody benefits if we can have some, I guess, predictive information on who is coming and where. And that's really what we're now at the level that we're getting fairly efficient in connecting all these dots, and we're starting to get a lot of requests to share this information. So if you can
yeah,
tell me who's coming and you can help me schedule when they should arrive, I can spend the night before optimizing the containers in my depot so
hmm,
that I don't have a big line, so that there's
yeah,
not congestion, so that things flow a little more efficiently. If they can kind of groom that cargo to be delivered sequentially, and communicate out to those drivers so that they arrive in a certain sequence, or even if they don't, that we can direct them when they come in. It's really about optimizing, how goods work, not just in the ports, but out into the to the land side as well.
Well, and let's talk about that because you just gave us an overview on the intermodal and drayage side, but what about the over the road solutions? Is it similar? Are they using the TMS system? How is that sort of helping carriers and brokers to compete in a difficult market and achieve success?
Yeah, so we have two over-the-road solutions, Tailwind and InfoSight. Tailwind's a great example here. There were options out there for over-the-road truckers from a TMS perspective, and then there were solutions for brokers, who were really, kind of the lifeblood of this over-the-road industry. But wasn't really anything other than Tailwind at the time that we found that helped companies who did it all, who were brokers and carriers. And that was again, best in class tech. That was a reason for the acquisition. It with Other than Tailwind, it was kind of a race to the bottom if you didn't have this solution. All that mattered was the lowest rate. There was no visibility on, on time,
Right.
safe operations, and that's really what Tailwind helped bring together. So the other road space is critical. We think Tailwind's absolutely still the best class solution out there. There are now options for just brokers who want to use it, and on the carrier side, it's very similar to what we do on the drayage side. Integrated mobile app so that the drivers can confirm proof of delivery and
Hmm.
spend less time on paperwork and just more time on the road earning money. Again,
Amazing.
it's all back to helping them grow quickly, but without adding the head count.
And that helps the clients too, because I talk to a lot of shippers on a regular basis. And I think one of the things that they complain about the most is having to get that POD, that proof of
Yeah,
delivery.
yeah,
They're like, really in 2022, am I really having to do this and go and get, wait for a driver to come in and get it scanned to me? And I'm waiting, 5 days after something is delivered. I mean, can't we do something about that?
yeah. That's exactly. I mean, it's crazy, but that's somewhat a common business practice. Faxes are still a
Mhm.
common business practice. We
Faxes?
Oh yeah,
Really? See,
order intake still sometimes comes in with faxes. Absolutely. Or it'll come in.
amazing.
We spent a lot of time on our first AI project automating the entry of these orders into the Drayage TMS because sometimes they come in an email, sometimes they
Mhm.
come in a PDF, sometimes they come in a Word document, sometimes they're faxed in, and you can digitally
Wow.
record it. And we put some tech together to help automate that. It's any process efficiency that we can deliver
Right.
down to these motor carriers, we're going to do it
As long
because
as we're
every
not as long as we're not still using typewriters. I mean, I use typewriters to type out checks and signature blinds, and I do not want to see that still in for anybody.
yeah, yeah,
Um, but one of the things that you say on your website is come for the TMS, stay for the ecosystem, and I just wanna bring that up because I really think that that ties everything together that we've been talking about and how you talk about the different solutions that you have and the fact that you're coming for the technology but you're staying for the ecosystem, the partnerships, the collaboration that we've been talking about that really you've been able to put together at Envase. And another thing that you say is that this simplicity of not having to jump between all these different systems really empowers growth. So, talk to me a little bit about both of those things that you say on the website. What do you mean by them? How are you empowering growth for your customers? And I think even when we say empowering growth for your customers, I think you're also empowering growth for your customers as well.
yeah. The payer, yeah, they're
Yeah.
they're always on our mind because they're on our customers' mind. They're on
Right.
these owner operators and the motor carriers mind. The ecosystem, I gave an example of a a task that these dispatchers have to do every day within our TMSs, and that's make appointments. Check visibility first. Where is my container? Which terminal is that at? Where's the
Yeah.
ship? And what do I have to do to get it? That's an example of the ecosystem. So it's not just about this TMS. It's about additional solutions that need to bolt onto it in certain places to make that driver's journey more efficient, but also make the dispatcher's day to day job more efficient. Um, this module for us is called PreCheck, Envase PreCheck, and it's like Expedia for reservations and appointments. Any facility that requires you pre-advise your arrival, kind of like the TSA pre-check when you go to the airport. You can show up at an airport, but if you don't have an ID, you can't fly. If you do have an ID and you subject yourself to a little more background screening and share some information with the airlines, you can breeze through the line. That's kind of the vision that we had for this, and that's an example of the ecosystem. Um, there's not an additional step that the users of our TMSs have to do. You asked about jumping between different systems. We've integrated all of this into the TMS solutions that they already have so that they can get the visibility within their TMS, so that there's a button to
Okay.
make an appointment automatically so that they never have to search for a container. They never have to manually go make an appointment or even go to another website to do it. It's all,
Awesome.
we call it native, available natively within their operating system.
Mhm. Simple, simple, simple. Easy, easy, easy. Like those are
Well,
the
simple,
words.
not easy. Simple, yes. We want to make it simple, but it's not easy. It's really not easy to integrate all these things together. But it's fun.
Yeah, and I didn't mean easy from your side. I just sort of meant from the user's perspective, right?
Oh,
Keeping
got it.
things simple and easy. Like you said, not having to reinvent the wheel and really learn all of these different technology terms potentially to just even navigate through a system, right? And so
Yeah,
that's what I mean by easy. You're putting a button there, you're labeling it what I would want it to be labeled so that I know exactly that what that button is going to do for me.
Yeah.
And so simple, easy, not easy for you guys, but definitely easy for your customers. And that's what I think is really what technology is supposed to do. It's not supposed to make things more difficult. Although people do say that technology in our everyday lives sometimes makes it more difficult, but our job is to make it simple and easy. So let's talk about onboarding and integration, because a lot of times when we talk about technology, and we've got a lot of technology companies that come on our show, the people in the audience are like, okay, this is great, but how long is it going to take me to implement, onboard, integrate? Like, what are we talking here? So, talk us through what that would look like.
Yeah, if we just stay focused on the TMS side, we have spent a lot of time refining how we engage with any inquiry, any prospect, any future customer.
Mhm.
Um, we have some Drayage TMS solutions that have been evolving for 30 years, highly specialized, highly customizable. Um, you know, we know that that's not for everybody, so we take a lot of time before we really engage with anybody to kind of analyze and diagnose before we start prescribing. To use a doctor patient analogy, it would be a little strange if a doctor just started writing prescriptions after taking
Right.
a 30-second look at you. We really
Mhm.
want to understand, hey, what are the issues that are unique to you, and then that will allow us to direct them to the right solution. um, Again, your owner operators, for the most part, want to be up and running in a day. It needs to be
Mhm.
highly intuitive, do the basic functions, integrate with QuickBooks, so that their lives are easier. And if they need help, it should be all involved, kind of self-driven within the application, using videos and things like that. If you're a large motor carrier, you probably want some hands-on, instructor-led training and, train the trainer scenarios. It really all depends on, what the prospect is looking for. So
Okay.
onboarding is key for us. We want to make
Yeah.
that as quick as possible. But in certain cases, some of these TMSs are really complicated and they require support and training and handholding along the way to kind of do a big transition, especially if you're coming from one system that doesn't serve your needs anymore to another. It takes a while, and we've got
Mhm.
solutions for literally everybody up and down the chain from a Drayage perspective.
So let's talk about what that looks like from an ideal client perspective. So I'm sitting in the audience, love what you're saying, but I don't know if I'm that ideal client for you. So what do I need to look like?
Um, we don't like status quo. We are not for everybody. We're a technology solutions provider, and we want to help businesses grow. And we typically find the best alignment with owners um, who are just a little frustrated with the limitations that their businesses have based on tech. We want to
Okay.
be that. We want to be that partner that goes out and finds solutions, even if it's not something that we own. All of our team has really been at this for a very long time, from the manager level up, and we're able to go out and find those solutions, even if it doesn't include our stuff. So we're really looking for those business owners who want to grow quickly and they want to leverage some tech to do it, and they understand the need to invest. Some of these solutions aren't very expensive, but there is an opportunity cost to convert and to start leveraging it. You have to really be committed from a process efficiency perspective, and that's really who we're looking for.
Okay.
We're not for everybody, but we really like those innovative owners who want to leverage tech to scale their businesses.
Awesome. Love to hear that. Now, we come to my favorite part of the discussion, which is around case studies. So, paint us a picture of what it looks like to work with you. So, give us an example of a customer. What was the challenge that they came to you with? What was the solution that you provided? And what was the ROI or benefit that they saw?
I think probably one of the best examples that I've read about, solely because some of their ownership and our owner have gotten to know each other through this process, is best Transportation out of New Jersey. They're a Profit Tools Drayage TMS customer. Um, they were incurring a lot of demurrage and per diem charges, and they spent a lot of time. That meaning, their cargo was stuck in a port space, and they couldn't get access to it. It's back to the visibility problem.
Mhm.
They spent a lot of time checking for the availability containers, and it just cost them a lot of time and money. And they started adding more and more bodies to be able to do that. Profit Tools has saved them. You'll have to get to them on the actual hard dollars, but a significant return just integrating the visibility and some of the process automation that allows them to do their dispatch operations better. It's reduced headcount or allowed those folks that are really smart to really focus on those exceptions.
Mhm.
And we're constantly providing them with up to the minute information on, hey, when's the last free day for this container so that I can dispatch somebody and get it out before I have to pay or my customer has to pay. So
Amazing.
it's really been a drastic reduction in the demurrage charges that they've incurred. They've also been able to pay their drivers faster and more, really more efficiently from a back
That's
office
good.
perspective.
Yeah.
Our driver pay functions are critical. Drivers want to get paid as soon as possible. So from an invoicing up to the customer, all the way down to paying a driver, all those are just core functions that work really really well within Profit Tools and all of our TMSs, honestly. So that's been another big benefit, a big customer service benefit that they have to the drivers.
Well, and I like that example because it's a win-win-win, right? So not only did you save for your client, you've also saved for their client and you've increased pay to their partners, so their vendors, because the drivers get paid faster. And so what you're doing in that scenario, even as a third party who's not necessarily right, in there, is that you're creating better relationships and a better ecosystem for all three of the organizations that are touching one of those shipments.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Amazing.
really with those digital connections, it's
Yeah.
visibility to who did what,
Hmm.
so that the person paying for that drayage can approve it, and so
Hmm.
that the trucking company can then automatically pay the driver. That entire process is automated within Profit
Yeah.
Tools,
Amazing.
and it's sharing an invoice, having the correct information to approve it, and then
Yeah.
trickle down from there. The driver gets paid faster.
Love it. Love it. All right. Well, what does the future hold for Envase? What can we expect to see from you?
We want to further expand, through to go back to the ecosystem analogy. We want to further expand and start optimizing a lot of the pickup and destination processes around the Drayage TMS items. The Drayage TMS model is, here's a container that needs to go from A to B. We know a lot of information that's highly valuable about these movements. It's highly valuable to the owners of the facilities at spot A and spot B. And then we can bundle in some solutions together that we already know can have a drastic effect on the inventory carry in our supply chain. We see a lot of extra stuff. It's boom or bust really in our transportation supply chain, and we think with some basic visibility and predictive insight as to what cargo is coming when and how to better schedule it, we can really optimize and take a lot of inefficiency out of the supply chain. We're still focused on that driver and his journey, but
Hmm.
there's a lot of other folks when we do that really efficiently that can benefit the shippers up the chain, and then the terminal operators, the distribution centers, the customer doors, customer warehouses. A lot of that can be efficient if we can advise dynamically on this cargo flow when things are coming and how, and let them really decide when the goods should move, and everything will adjust accordingly. That's really where we're focused. So
Well, I can't wait to see. That all sounds really, really exciting. And it's such a shame to draw this to a close. I mean, we really don't talk specifically about drayage all that much on the show. And I would have loved to carry on chatting. But I think We might be doing that coming up in a couple of months. So stay tuned, everybody. Running a freight business in this post pandemic world is hard enough, but when the systems you use to run your day to day are getting in the way, it's going to become increasingly difficult to effectively plan ahead. And unclear operations, inefficiency, and a lack of insight aren't just stressful and time consuming, they're actually hindering growth. But by focusing on a few key software tools with a partner like Envase, transportation companies of any size can solve internal problems quickly and grow in strong and sustainable ways. If you want to find out more, you can check them out over at Envase Technologies. That's ENVASE technologies.com. A massive thank you to Alan for joining me today and to the team at Envase for making this episode happen.